Hey guys, Valerie Hunt, Run RX. It's Wednesday, so ask me anything. So we've got 3 really good questions this week. So the first question, I'll say all 3 questions, and then you can, and then you're welcome to ask a question. I can see if somebody writes in and asks a question. But top 3 questions this week were about, first of all, the hamstring. Somebody said, I feel one side more than the other. So we're going to talk about feeling muscles in our run. And then the second question was really nice. It was about the cadence. So they said, I am trying to hold the 180 cadence and keeping my pulls low and my quick short strides, I think. Quick steps and shortening my stride, which is really a great conversation too. And then the last one was about starting. How do I start running if I've been off running for a while, had an injury, and now I've put some weight on? And that's also a really great question. So I'll just go 1, 2, 3. Sorry, something on me. Okay, so question number 1. Let's talk about the hamstring first. So this is a really good introduction to running anyway, because most of us, by the way, I think, don't really understand the role of muscles in running. So instead of thinking about running as a movement as we should, we think of running more in terms of just something we do. We're not really thinking about the action of it. So it's like I'm going for a run, and then I'll be like, oh, well, how far are you going? Where are you going? Right? I don't ask you how. So it's important to understand that. Your question is about how I can run for long distance. Okay, so we'll add that for sure. All right, so let's just say this first of all. What is running? Running is free falling. And so in free falling, there's just what's really cool is the body actually works connected as a unit, and all your muscles work. So every single muscle you have is working. The challenge is this: we only have to control a very small part of that action. So our job in running is that when the foot touches down on the ground, we pull that foot up from the ground so the body can keep traveling forward. So just keep in mind, from your hip to your head is 68% of your body weight. So if you allow that to, we call it falling, because it's what it is. Gravity's got you fall, and you are pulling to keep up with your falling body, then you are pulling 2% of your body weight. What's bringing your foot up from the ground is a combination of gravity, ground reaction force, elasticity, and last, muscle contraction. So when your foot touches down, your foot will touch down, then your body weight lands on top of that foot, and in that split second, you feel your foot, your body still goes forward, and then you go pull. The hamstring is the muscle that turns on or activates or whatever, however you want to think it. Your muscle, your hamstring, closes the leg. So what happens is you pull the foot, this is you, your body's gone forward, you pull the foot, then you have to let go of your foot. Your hamstring does this part on its own. So first I have to understand that, and then I have to be okay with it. So what that means is if you're trying to run and pull and do all of the work, then you are not running, because unfortunately you are now just simply pulling your foot. So it has to be part of the conversation, has to be how the muscles work in running. So what that means is if you're running and you're feeling fatigue in the hamstring, it should just help you to think, okay, I'm over pulling. So the best part is this is kind of when the cadence comes in too. But if especially it's on one side versus the other, then more than likely you're pulling higher, on one side, which is very common, and it's okay. Most of us have I'm stronger on one side or this and that. Instead of letting that be something that inhibits my running, this is what will save the running for everybody. Whether you're feeling one side more than the other, or you're thinking, oh, that happens to me sometimes. When you practice the running pose itself and you stand here, right, this helps you, first of all, develop strength, balance. It's really good for you. So here's my ears, shoulders, hip, lifted ankle in line. We'll also add in standing pulls. So you feel that you only have to pull to here. So again, I have to tell myself that. It's a conversation, right? But I want to strengthen my hamstring and my understanding of what is pulling. So in place, you absolutely should do all of the work because you're learning what your job is. See, your job really is just right here, but it's very hard to think and learn this little. So make a big, nice, full pull. But then if I understand that in my run, I should only be using very little active muscle, then you'll get more comfortable feeling that when you practice falling. So practice pulling on each leg so you get stronger on each side. When you run, if you're feeling too much hamstring or any other muscle at all, then you have to say to yourself, okay, something's going on. So this is important too, because if the hamstring is the muscle, right? And you're saying, well, okay, but I shouldn't feel the hamstring. What muscle should I feel? The heart muscle. Because running is a cardiovascular exercise. So for running long distance, for example, so if you want to run longer distance, so this here, let me go into the second question, which was cadence. So 180 is not just a number that we just randomly throw out. It's just an average number that seems to work well with muscle elasticity. Getting my foot off at around that 180 is what keeps my body using muscle elasticity rather than just using active muscle contraction. So when someone says to me, I want to go longer, I want to run faster, then the first thing I say is let's just make sure you add in some muscle elasticity to your training. So say if you just turn on and again, if I turn on the metronome, right? So I'm gonna turn it on kind of. I don't have one, but here's our metronome. So everybody, try to run with me for just a second. So bend your knees, pick up a foot, and instead of pulling all the way to pose, try just here at your ankle. So just lightly touch your ankle with your lifted foot. Now just trying to stay kind of this small. Here we go, it goes like this. Up, 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 up. So this is 180. 1, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, up, 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 up. Okay? So if I can stand here in place and do something and I go nowhere, then it's not what's helping me move when I travel. So what does that mean? That means that you have to understand that the pulling itself is not what's moving you forward. So just trying to pull my feet faster is not going to help me unless I also take my body weight forward, okay? So let's try that now. I'm gonna have you pull in place at 180, and then I want you to just try to let your body weight go forward, and then you can say to me, how much easier does that feel? So here we go, just in place. Up, 2, 3, up, 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 up. All ready? Go. So what should have happened is 1, you started to travel forward, and 2, your feet should have pulled quicker, easier, lighter. They feel like less effort because if I'm in place, I'm holding all of my weight. If I fall, I'm only pulling 2% of my body weight. So if it's effort to hold cadence, like, wow, I'm trying to just pull my feet and I'm getting winded, but I'm not really going anywhere, that should be your signal that I'm pulling, but I'm not following. So then what happens? You're like, well, shoot, I don't know what that means. So what ends up happening is you guys will start to do things like this, like pushing. You see, because pushing, in my mind, when I push, you see my body went forward, right? So you're like, well, that'll make sense. But then your whole run, you're just jumping and landing. If I push, the bummer of that is I push, and then my back leg's here. So if I'm feeling my hamstrings, guys, in my run, so I'll go back to that, I was feeling my hamstring on one side. You might be kicking or pushing back. So one thing to get very comfortable with for both the cadence and the hamstring use is, again, I need to keep my feet underneath me and not worry about how high I pull. But make sure that I understand it's got to be quick, but if you allow this part to go forward, it doesn't feel like a lot of effort in the feet. It's more effort in my breathing, in the cardio side. So, which kind of goes into how long can I run? Well, you can run for as long as you can hold. That's such a great feeling. So this is a great question. This goes into both someone that wants to run distance and also the person that reached out and said, I've put some weight on, I've been injured, and I don't know if the doctor said it or someone said, you really shouldn't start running if you're overweight. Well, then I'm never going to run. I mean, that's not the answer. The answer is I'm going to run to my ability, and I'm going to practice and add in skill, strength, and self-care to keep making me a better runner. That's how we have to start thinking about running. Whether it's I'm overweight, whether it's I've been injured, whether it's I just simply want to get better at running. Guys, first step is running itself, right? So if I am overweight or coming back from an injury, either of those things, grab a wall, grab something to hold on to and start practicing just balance. Start practicing the pull. The action of running is pulling. Holding, this is a hold. This from here to here is holding, right? I can practice this when I'm walking, right? And just in the conversation of falling, all you need is a wall to start. So everyone can start practicing without having any fitness, with just standing in place, right? So I always tell people, there's no reason that you're not beginning. And then what happens is start challenging yourself, right? Maybe in the beginning you have this much space and that's it. So I do a few standing in pose, just practice, and then I try running a little bit. And maybe my first day I run the length of this mat, but I do that repeatedly, right? Take a break, rest, if I need to, stretch, do something. You see, again, it's amazing what learning movement does for your movement. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I can run all the way down the driveway. Oh, look, I can run even a little bit further. Because then you're actually running, right? Because if I never work on the running, right? So if I'm always thinking about, like if I think, oh, I'm not going to lose weight if I'm not running miles, then that's a wrong thought. Because the actual movement of this, I guarantee you, is so much more efficient for your body. And the development of your ability cardio-wise in the short spurts of movement, plus your muscle tendon elasticity, your skeletal strength, are so much more than trying to go out for distance with incorrect movement. Then you're just upping your chance of injury. So change your mindset. And the fun part is, guys, I have what's called the RunRx Reboot. It's a 30-day reboot. We put it up on YouTube. And basically, I just take you through 30 days of skill, strength, and self-care. It's great if you've been injured. It's great if you're coming back into running. It's great if you're just getting started. Or if you're in a rut, any of it. And I tell you what, even if you just go through the beginning aspect of what is running and how to practice, just having the conversation about running is so great. All right, so those were my 3 main questions. So whoever said, I want to run longer, what's limiting you isn't really anything other than your conversation with running. So this is where I tell everybody, you start with not worrying about the length. Like I practice in my garage right here, you can see it. And when we have clinics, when we start people with our immersion program, online you can come train, and it's 12 weeks. I use video analysis, we do Zooms, we have a great community. But I'm the one that watches your feedback, I watch your check-ins, I watch you run, I watch your drills. I go through the journey with you, especially that beginning part of learning to feel. First, I have to understand what is falling, what is running, all of that. So it's nice to have that feedback. So let's finish with just this great feeling. So you notice I've just been rocking back and forth. So this would just be such a great start, wherever you're starting from. I've never run before, I'm just getting back to running. It's amazing what you can do with just this. So this is just to help you feel that your movement starts from your center. So if you allow your center to go forward, you should start to feel your heels come off the ground, your like body weight's in the front of your foot. You shouldn't have it on your toes, it should stay on the ball, but it feels a woo, so take your arms back. See, that's the first step in feeling that. You see, at some point, we're not going to be able to stand here. You see what I mean? So then you know, oh, falling is what takes my body forward. Because if I actually really fell, watch, you fall, you see there's travel. My foot pulled up in response to my fall. So now, try pulling in place with me. Up, 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 up. And I want you to feel that same feeling. Take it to the center of your body and just fall. And you should feel movement. So the fun part is take it outside, and the more you can feel the fall, one, the longer you will be able to run. You choose the speed, because really falling is, you start to control the fall. So you can fall just enough to move, should be your long distance runs, or fall crazy, like fall out of control. But I'll tell you guys, if the earlier you start that conversation, falling is acceleration, running is free falling, even just thinking fall, it will change your run. So then it goes back to, the last thing I wanted to say was with the 180 cadence. So they said, I'm trying to hold the cadence and pull quickly and have like a, what's the word? Less stride. Okay, let me just talk about that for just a second. Cadence and response are with stride length. So one of the things that when we're starting to run, and we have to let go of things. So the way to let go of things is to just think of something in a new way. That's the best way to do it. So before, I didn't really know that I was supposed to pull. So I was just kind of either pushing or reaching, most of us. So now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I've got to pull. Well, if I'm still thinking about striding, or stride length, if you will, then even if you're pulling, unfortunately, you're going to try to make your legs separate. So a lot of you, and this might be why it's hard to maintain the 180, or my hamstring starts to bother me, is because we still have this want to, and I know that's really exaggerated, but I have to let go of any thought of stride. We're never going to feel the air. We can't feel the air part. We can only feel when our foot touches down. So the better you get at responding to that, it's amazing how much more your legs will separate because you're letting it happen. And it really goes into, yes, so that's a good question too. So just so you understand that instead of trying to control stride length at all, it's just pull. Have just one thought. You only have to think of one thing. Falling you allow. See, start even when you're walking. Can I just, can I move from my center? You're going to feel yourself, whatever direction you go in, you really will connect more with pulling. So that's just important to understand that, because the more fun you have with that, you'll start to understand that pulling is actually a natural response. We don't have to do that much work. The work is in holding this line. So you can practice your pose anytime. This is the best part too about if someone's out of shape, wanting to come back in, then do little bursts of practice. You can practice for 5 to 10 minutes at a time. Do that 2 or 3 times throughout, all of a sudden you've got 30 minutes of practice. It's amazing. Your body will respond. All the things you want to see will happen. Last thing is, because he made a good point, and he said, does it also help to have flexible ankles? Sure it does. However, right now it's not limiting you. And the reason I say that is because notoriously runners are like tight, right? And part of that is good for elasticity, just so you know. Will it help you to have more range of motion in any part of your body? Yes. You want to have full range of motion in your wrists. You want to have full range of motion in your ankles, in your hips, in your shoulders. It's so important, which is why we do skill, strength, and self-care. However, just so you know, that you are still able fully, right now, no matter if you have tight ankles, tight hips, tight hamstrings, who cares, tight body, your body can still use gravity to fall, and you can pull your foot. So you'll develop more elasticity, you'll develop more flexibility, all of that mobility as you practice. But guys, just the beginning of the practice, the structure, the foundation of running, you don't need anything. You just need to believe it and start doing it. That's such, you know what I mean? It's like, don't wait, start now. Start that conversation now, because all of the people coming in, when people come into the membership, they're telling me a lot of times, I've been stretching, I've been stretching, I've been stretching. I'm like, great, but where's the skill? Where's the elasticity? It all goes together, all right? Thank you so much. Those are great questions. And always, like, I love hearing from you guys. And then I know you're trying and you're practicing, so I feel like that's great, because a lot of people, they just go out and run. So when do I do my warm-up? Somebody said, when do I do all this stuff? Before you run, what I would say, before you run, at least stand in your pose, do some pulls, because that's your job. Do some elasticity hops, because you want to feel the elasticity in your run before you run. After your run is when you can do the self-care exercises and strength. And then, of course, you can have the off days. But add in whenever you can, and you'll feel the effects in your run. So keep the questions coming. Look forward to hearing from you guys. See you next Wednesday. Thank you.